I did so much research before going to my first Oktoberfest, and somehow I still worried about the completely wrong things. I stressed about whether my dirndl being slightly above the knee would scandalize everyone in Bavaria.
Shame!
I did not adequately prepare myself for Munich deciding to be cold and rainy. I definitely didn't fully understand how beer tent reservations worked, and I might have underestimated how much beer is actually in one of those things. Thankfully, we were there with a friend who knew their way around Oktoberfest and showed us things that I don't think I would have found while doing all my research. So consider this video me being that friend to you. We're talking about what to wear, where to buy it, reservations, beer, food, and some of the things that you absolutely should not miss once you're inside. Here are all the things that I wish I knew before going to my first Oktoberfest. Okay, let's start with the subject that I spent way too much time researching and also had the most fun preparing for, let's be honest. What am I supposed to wear? Now, while getting dressed in traditional Bavarian garb is not a requirement of attending Oktoberfest, but it's very strongly encouraged to wear traditional Bavarian clothes, and it makes the experience just so much more fun, in my opinion. So for men, the traditional Bavarian outfit is called Lederhosen, and for women, it's a dirndl. All right, let's talk girls first, since I transformed into my outfit so quickly for you all. If you're gonna wear tracht, which is the word for traditional clothing, you really need to try to wear something that actually looks like tracht, not like you picked it up at Spirit Halloween. You know the ones that I'm talking about, okay? Especially for the women, those like sexy beer girl costumes that are really, really short, made of super cheap fabric, and every piece of the dirndl is kind of all sewn together as one. That is gonna not fly over very well. And for guys, flimsy, fake Lederhosen, I think looks even worse. You don't have to spend $500 on some designer dirndl or really expensive Lederhosen. There's a really large middle ground, and that's where I would aim. Now, let's discuss the rabbit hole that nearly broke me, and that is how long your dirndl should be. Because I heard a lot of conflicting things. I read that if your dirndl was above the knee, Germans would immediately know that you're a tourist. It would be considered inappropriate. You'd look trashy, and I was stressed because I found a couple dirndls that I really loved, but they both hit at the knee or slightly above it. And I genuinely considered returning the one that I eventually chose because of some of the things that I read online. And then I actually got to Munich and nobody cared. And here's what I wish somebody just would have explained to me. There is no Oktoberfest dress code with rules, especially that the hem of your dirndl needs to come below your knees. You'll see them categorized when you shop for them as mini, midi, and long. And from what I understand, the midi length is the one that is most common, especially for Oktoberfest, with the long length being a more formal version of the dirndl. And if you want the most safe choice, a midi length is what you want to go for, but don't stress out if you find one and it hits at or around your knees. There's a huge difference between a well-made dirndl hitting an inch or two above your knee and wearing a super short beer girl novelty Oktoberfest Halloween costume. Okay, now where do you actually buy this stuff? If you're planning an Oktoberfest from the US, I actually bought this dirndl on Amazon. And I know Amazon has a lot of costumey Oktoberfest stuff, but if you're discerning and you know what to look for, I think you can find a really quality, well-made dirndl that won't break the bank on Amazon that has fast shipping so that you can get it in time to be able to try it on, especially if you're kind of on a tight time schedule between now and when you're leaving for Munich. You want to look for an actual structured bodice, skirt, and apron. That is what makes up a dirndl, and then you have to shop for the blouse that you wear underneath it separately. And one thing that really helped me was I looked at a bunch of German retailers first to really get an idea of what a good, well-made traditional dirndl is supposed to look like. So Amazon should not be the only place you shop. These are also some great German websites that are really well known for selling beautiful dirndls. Another detail of your dirndl that you will not want to miss out on is the placement of where you tie your apron bow, because it is actually very important. Where your bow is placed kind of helps other people know your status, whether you're single, you're married, etc. So if you tie your bow on the left, it means you're single, which actually I just tied there right now. I need to switch it over to the right because I'm married. Or you can also tie it over there if you are taken in a relationship. If you are a young little girl, you tie your bow in the center. Your bow being tied in the back has traditionally meant that you are a widow, and also waitresses and servers will tie their bows in the back as well. But really all you probably need to know is whether you need to put your bow on the left or the right. Just think our relationship right side. Hopefully that makes it easier. And I should also note, if you're a woman and you don't want to wear a dirndl, there are actually Lederhosen for women. So if you think you'd feel more comfortable in pants, you can absolutely go this route if you want. Now let's talk about the guys. My husband went a little bit of a different route when he got his Lederhosen. He actually got his from the site Bavarian, and we had a really good experience purchasing from them. Everything was super high quality. His is a really nice genuine suede that has really beautiful embroidery on it. Now, my husband wore his with suspenders and a white shirt, which is probably like the classic Lederhosen look that you think of. But if we go back in the future, he'd probably opt for his Lederhosen paired with a white shirt and the traditional vest over the top. You can also opt for, instead of a white shirt, like a gingham or checkered shirt. I saw that was a very popular choice. You can also buy everything that you need for your outfit for Oktoberfest in Munich. I just personally didn't want to spend time on our trip shopping for a dirndl, but there were so many Trachten stores all over Munich that sold beautiful clothing for men and women at varying price points. And this could be a better way to go if you know you're going to have the time, because it can be a little tricky to figure out European sizing. So going into a store, having one of the salespeople actually help you get fitted into something can take a lot of the guesswork out of it. One of my biggest mistakes. You see this setup here? Cutesy little tiny cap sleeve blouse with a little dirndl. I was envisioning a sunny, warm, late summer, early fall day where I could just sport this, and then maybe at the end of the day, as things got a little chilly, I could throw over my matching cardigan and it would all be good. Oh no. Munich had other plans. Then it started raining. Not a great day. It was cold. I started the day off with my little cashmere cardigan, and it was fine at the time, but then as the day progressed, it got colder and it got very rainy. And I did have a proper big jacket, but I refused to wear it because I didn't want it to cover up my outfit. Yeah, not smart, but I have been known to suffer for fashion a time or two. Look at the weather before you leave and dress accordingly. You're not going to spend your entire day inside of a warm beer tent. You're probably going to go out, wander around inside the festival, maybe go on some rides, maybe shop the vendors. So anticipate the fact that at least half of your day is going to be spent outside, and plan accordingly. And if rain is in the forecast, definitely bring a small collapsible umbrella with you that can fit within Oktoberfest bag restrictions. Okay, last thing about wardrobe, your bag needs to be tiny. Make sure to go on the Oktoberfest official website and look at the dimensions that they have for the year that you're going. Measure your bag and make sure it's small enough. And the good news is a lot of dirndls have pockets built into them in the front of the skirt underneath your apron. So that gives you even a little bit more storage. Okay, let's talk about how the beer tents work. These are huge buildings that are constructed every single year for the purpose of Oktoberfest, torn down and stored, and then put up again the next year. And every single tent is for a different large brewery in Munich. You do kind of need reservations to be able to get a spot at one of the tables in these tents. And I thought that I could just go on the website and make a reservation for the three of us, like making a dinner reservation, but that's not really how it works. Usually you're reserving an entire table, which seats about 8 to 10 people. Causes a little bit of a snag when it comes to being a smaller group going to Oktoberfest. You kind of have to just go into a tent, walk in, and find a seat at a table where there is space. A significant amount of the seating at the tables is reserved for people with those reservations. The problem is, on a busy day when the tent reaches capacity, you're not going to be able to get it. So if you don't have reservations, go early. That is your best shot. We went to the Augustiner tent. I hope I'm saying that right. And I am going to butcher German in this video more than once. I'm just warning you. But we went there first thing in the morning and found seats at a table that did have a reservation. They allowed us to sit there with the understanding that we knew that at 4 p.m. when that reservation arrived, we were out of there. So that is one way to do it. Or you can kind of walk around, see in the tables where there is space, and ask people if you're able to sort of squeeze in with them. Trying to find seats on a weekday afternoon is going to be a wildly different experience than trying to find them on a Saturday at 7 p.m. So just keep that in mind. And while we're clearing things up, I just want to reiterate that you do not need to buy a ticket to Oktoberfest. going into the grounds is totally free. Now, there are certain exceptions like Oide Wiesn, again, hope I'm saying that even remotely correctly, which we will get to that. And obviously the rides and attractions do cost money. Now, let's talk about how ordering beer works. We were just talking about finding a seat at a table, and that is key if you want to order a beer, because you will not be served if you are standing around. So having a seat is crucial if you want to drink. Another thing that I didn't quite understand while going is you're not walking into these beer tents and being presented with like a 25 beer tap list. Like I said before, each major brewery has their own designated tent. So when you're going into that brewery's tent, you're drinking that brewery's beer. So which breweries that you want to try can actually factor in which tents that you try to get into. And when you order a beer, you're generally ordering a Maß. This is 1 liter of beer. For my fellow Americans, that is 33.8 ounces, which means, yes, it is more than 2 16-ounce pints, which is what most of us are used to drinking one at a time in bars here in the US. And keep in mind that Oktoberfest beers tend to hover around 6% ABV. Please do not mentally count one of these as one beer. Pace yourself, because this starts to add up very quickly after you've had them flowing for quite a few hours. If an entire liter of Oktoberfest beer sounds a little aggressive, you can order a Radler, which is kind of similar to a shandy. It's German beer that is mixed with lemon soda. It's refreshing, it's lower in alcohol, and most importantly, it is a great move if you are trying to stick it out for the entire day and not completely get wasted. And there are alcohol-free options too. Most of the tents now do also serve non-alcoholic beer. There's also one Oktoberfest tradition that I feel like you will experience approximately 4,000 times, and that is this song. If you hear this little song start playing and everyone starts picking up their beer, this is Ein Prosit der Gemütlichkeit. I really practiced that last word a lot, so I hope I got close. This is basically the Oktoberfest toast drinking song. Gemütlichkeit, I think I did it. It doesn't really have an English word that it translates directly into, but essentially it means coziness, or it's an idea of warmth and friendliness and spending good company and just enjoying yourselves together, like a cozy time. So when the band starts playing Ein Prosit, it's your cue, and you will pick it up really quickly. You grab your Maß, and then after the song's over, everyone raises their glass and says Prost, links their beer together, and you take a drink. And you better make sure that when you say Prost and clink glasses with whoever you're doing it with, that you give them the good eye contact. Because Germans believe that if you do not make eye contact while you cheers, then you will be doomed to 7 years of bad sex. And I don't think anybody wants that, do they? Bands in some of the beer tents will play this between every 15 to 20 minutes. So you're gonna hear it a lot. And you know what? It's fun every single time. By the end of your first day at Oktoberfest, once you start hearing the first few notes of this song, you are just instinctively gonna reach for your beer. Like, it will be so ingrained in you, like Pavlov's dog level ingrained. You'll be starting to feel like you're a local too. And I really like this because it's one of those tiny traditions that makes these massive beer halls kind of feel a little bit more communal, because suddenly everyone's grabbing their beers and cheersing people in the room that they don't know. So it really just makes you feel like you're more connected to the other people that are there. And that is another point that I want to make, is to come prepared to socialize and talk to people. There were some guys that were sitting next to us. I think some of them were Portuguese, a few of them were from another country, and they didn't really speak very much English, but my husband pulled out his Translate app on his iPhone and started using that to sort of talk back and forth with this guy, translating between each other so that they could have a conversation. And there was another point, this older German man that joined us, and it's really cool to just get to know other strangers that are there. It makes it a lot more fun. I really recommend that you bring cash. More and more, Oktoberfest is starting to have opportunities to pay with cards, but you definitely want to have enough cash in case you do not encounter that at all. So my recommendation is go to an ATM at a bank before you go to the festival. There are a bunch of ATMs outside the festival and inside the festival, but I would assume that those are probably charging a pretty high rate. It's smarter to go find a bank while you're in the city. Tip your server, okay? These people are carrying an absolutely insane amount of huge beer mugs and massive wood planks of food to you through a very crowded festival of very drunk people. That is a feat. German culture isn't exactly the same as American tipping culture, so don't just tip 20% every single time. But what is a nice thing to do is to maybe round up €1 or €2 after you've paid for your beers or your food. Most importantly, don't steal your Stein. I know that they're really cool, but these belong to the beer tents and halls that you are drinking at, and the security people at the front are watching for people trying to shove their Stein underneath their jacket. Okay, so don't try it. If you really want a beer Stein as a souvenir, there are tons of places where you can buy them legitimately. And there's another system that you may encounter at some of the smaller tents or outdoor areas of the festival, that when you buy your beer, you'll also pay a pfand, which is a little small deposit on the beer mug itself. And depending on where you are, they might also give you a little pfand mark, which looks like a little token, which you will not want to lose. When you're finished with your beer, you simply go and return your beer mug with the token, and they give you the money back for your pfand that you paid when you bought the beer. It's kind of like a little security deposit that you're paying for the glass, and then once you're done, you get it right back. Paying that deposit does not mean that you get to keep the Stein. Now, we talked a lot about beer, but you definitely want to come hungry, and you definitely don't want to skip eating, because the food was honestly one of my favorite parts about Oktoberfest. If you want to start your day like a Bavarian, start with Weißwurstfrühstück, which I just tried that and hopefully it came out kind of okay. This is a traditional Bavarian breakfast built around Weißwurst, which are pale sausages that are traditionally made from veal, and they're served with a sweet Bavarian mustard. Traditionally, you might also have a Weiss beer to go with it. And here's the other thing. Don't eat the casing on these. Remove the sausage from it. There's also a very traditional technique in which you suck the sausage out of the casing, but I'm gonna let you Google that to find out what that looks like, okay? Now, one of the best things that we ate all day in the tent was the dirndl. This is this delicious roast chicken, and there were so many of them just roasting on spits. They smelled amazing. Like, if you think Costco chicken is good, no. This puts that Costco chicken to shame. Crispy, salty skin, super juicy inside. Everyone talks about Oktoberfest beer, but I'm here to start an Oktoberfest chicken conversation because it's worth having. Obviously, you will need to get a pretzel. It's almost required. You are in Bavaria during Oktoberfest. When you're in a tent, there'll be girls walking around with baskets of them, holding them up. And in German, they're called Brezen. But make sure that you save room for the vendors outside. Like, don't get full from all the food inside the tents. When you're walking through the fairgrounds, it's dangerous because everything smells amazing, especially these nuts. I'm a sucker for candied roasted nuts. I cannot not get them. And these were some of the best that I've ever had. I mean, you smell these before you see them, and then suddenly the bag is empty. Look, I don't make the rules. You're also gonna see these gorgeously decorated gingerbread hearts everywhere. I am not going to attempt to pronounce what they're called, but this is what they are called. I'll put that on screen. But obviously I needed one. I love a cookie. Now, I'm gonna manage your expectations when it comes to these. It looked better than it tasted. Not the best gingerbread cookie I've ever had. Maybe I got one that really wasn't made the best. Who knows? Don't come for me if you like them. But I think they're more of like a fun Oktoberfest souvenir and photo opportunity than they are delicious dessert. If you have more time than we did and you really want to go and try all these different foods, here are some other ones to look for. Schweinshaxe, which is a giant crispy roasted pork knuckle. Käsespätzle, which is my favorite, kind of like their answer to a mac and cheese. Oberste, which is this amazing Bavarian cheese spread that's really good with bread or pretzels. And Kaiserschmarrn, which are these fluffy torn up pancakes that are served with powdered sugar and fruit. Knowing what I know now, I probably would have gotten that instead of the really pretty decorated gingerbread cookie. But my advice, graze. Don't eat one enormous meal. Try different things throughout the day as you explore different parts of Oktoberfest. It's more fun, and considering the size of those beers, it's also a really excellent strategy. My biggest piece of advice is not to spend the whole day in the big beer tents. Go to different ones because they all have a different vibe, a different look, a different energy. So it's really fun to go and explore. And of course, you get to try different beers as you go to different ones. So don't just stay in one, and don't stay in the tents all day long. Before I went, I kind of pictured Oktoberfest as like giant beer tents and some carnival rides, but I think I had that backwards. The festival grounds themselves are a huge part of the experience. And we were really lucky because, like I said, our friend took us around to some things that I would have never even known to go to if he hadn't been there. One of the most fun things we did was watch people get thrown off the devil's wheel. So this thing is called the Teufelsrad. Again, probably saying that very badly, but it translates into devil's wheel. And basically people volunteer to sit on this giant spinning turntable, and the operator starts spinning it faster and faster to try to fling people off. And if people don't fall off from the initial speedy rotation, then their staff starts trying to get people off, either by having this swinging ball try to like knock them off. If that doesn't work, then they start trying to lasso them off. Some people are actually really good at this and can stay on for a really long time. It's actually very impressive. And other people are just sloppy drunk, and it's just fun to watch a group of 20 full-grown men get flung off of a giant disc. Volunteer for it at your own risk, but you know, it'd be a story. There's another historic attraction called the toboggan, where people attempt to ride like a fast-moving conveyor belt up a tower. And apparently it gets increasingly entertaining as the day goes on, and the people that do it are increasingly more and more intoxicated. So if you see a giant crowd of people standing around and laughing, watching something, then go join them to see what they're looking at. Another thing that I had no idea existed before we went was Oide Wiesn, which is basically old Oktoberfest. It's a totally separate section on the southern end of the grounds that is designed to preserve the historic and the traditional side of Oktoberfest. There is a small admission fee. I think when we went, it was just a few euros, so it's absolutely worth going in there. The atmosphere feels completely different. There are historic rides, more old-fashioned carnival rides as compared to some of the really big, crazy ones that are in the main Oktoberfest grounds, and much more emphasis on Bavarian traditions and culture. We went into Festzelt Tradition, and this ended up being one of my favorite stops of the whole day. We got to watch couples performing traditional Bavarian dances. The women were spinning around in these gorgeous dirndls, while the men were doing the Schuhplattler, which involves all this kind of stomping around and slapping of their legs. Then we got to see these musicians play these massive horns that are called Alp horns. And while you're in this tent, look for this. They serve Augustiner beer in these traditional stoneware steins rather than the glass ones. And look, it's such a small detail, but I loved this. Between drinking Augustiner out of these stone steins, watching the traditional dances, and listening to the musicians play the Alp horns, it felt like getting a little glimpse into a much older Oktoberfest. And definitely don't forget to experience the carnival aspect of Oktoberfest, because there were some absolutely insane carnival rides that I have never seen at any fair in the US. Now, whether or not you're into riding carnival rides, that's a whole other thing. It's not personally my thing. You can walk around and ride the Ferris wheel at sunset, people watch, play some carnival games, order some food you don't know how to pronounce, and definitely make sure to stay out after dark, because the whole thing transforms into this crazy lit up festival at night. Now, here's a few practical things to know before you go that I think are crucial. And the first is choose comfortable shoes. You're going to be walking a lot. You're going to be standing a lot. You may even end up dancing on a bench. I did a time or two. The second thing is to use public transportation. It is so easy to get to the festival fairgrounds via Munich's public transportation system. You definitely don't want to be driving a car. The third thing, choose a meeting point. The fairgrounds are massive. It can be very chaotic and very crowded. So if you get separated from somebody, choose a place that can be your meeting point to find each other again, in case one of your phone dies. And make sure to save your hotel address and your home route on your phone before you start drinking. Not very sexy advice, I know, but you know, things can get crazy. Now, when should you go? Schedule is flexible. Try to plan on going during a weekday. It'll be a little bit less crowded than, let's say, the weekend. And definitely don't think of Oktoberfest as a nighttime event. Go earlier than you think. Starting earlier gives you plenty of time, especially if you don't have reservations, to find a spot in the bigger tents, and also to be able to walk around and explore and see more, eat more, do more. So the earlier, the better. If you're going, you want to make sure that you book your hotel early. The hotels do start to get booked up. If you know that you're going, absolutely book your hotel first, have your dirndl crisis later. Oktoberfest had been on my travel bucket list for years, and after finally experiencing it, it was everything that I thought it was going to be. And I completely understand why people go back again and again. It's one of the most fun travel experiences I think I've ever had. And I actually have a whole vlog of our entire Oktoberfest experience coming up as well. So if you want to see what the experience was really like, then make sure that you're subscribed. And if you have been to Oktoberfest before, then I would like to know in the comments, what is the one thing that you wish that you knew before you went for your first time? Leave it down below, because I'm sure there are some things that I missed. And hey, while you're here, check this video out. I think you're gonna love it. I'll see you all over here. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the Munich vlog. Bye.